couple of strays, but overall it's getting better anyway. It's not right in the middle of the bullseye, but I think a couple more weeks should be able to hold a maybe 6-inch, 5 to 6 inch group. Today I'm going to go out on the farm and move a few cameras around. We'll talk real quick about the strategy that I use for this patterning process. I've got a pretty good bead on that big 8-pointer, so that one is more in the maintenance mode. Try to keep cameras in his area just to keep track of when he's moving in the daylight, which will make it easier for us once the season comes in to figure out when it makes sense to start hunting him. But then I've got to cast that wider net and try to find some more bucks. So today is going to be all about putting cameras out. We won't show you every single setup. We'll show you a couple of them and talk a little bit more about maybe some of the deer that we've had in the past that we're hoping to get back again, and just some general stuff about deer hunting while we're putting these cameras out.
Realtree's Midwest Whitetail is brought to you by RK Tractors, Ozonics, Redneck Blinds, Wasp Archery, Spot Hog Releases, RTP Outdoors, America's Best Bowstrings, Hoyman Tree Saws, and Realtree.
This is the spot right below the house, one of the areas where I was hunting that buck last year that we called the Big 7, and we were getting a lot of pictures of the bladed tin in this area in the past couple of years. This little bean field right in front of me here is where we were filming him a lot during the summer. That small food plot of corn that I put in that I fenced, if you remember that, is just on the other side of this little tree line. I can see the blind is probably 50 yards away, 60 yards away. So that's right here. So everything's kind of centrally located, really focused on trying to catch up with that buck. So that's everywhere on the farm. There's at least one buck that I'm trying to find, and he's the one I'm trying to find here. He's a pretty cool deer. We've got a fair amount of history with him. He's a deer that back in 2017 we thought he was going to die. I mean, he got tore up in a fight in early November. We basically rode him off. He survived. In 2018 he came back as an 8-pointer, and he's back to a 10-pointer again this year. So he should be, I think he's 5 years old this year if I had to guess, so he'd be a cool one. So that's the deer we're targeting in this spot, and I would not be the least bit surprised if he's very much centralized right in about a 30-40 acre area. One of the next cameras we put out is going to be on the other side of the big creek, also in the area where I think we're going to be able to find this buck. So, like I said, little by little, we're going to work our way through the whole farm and try to find back some of these deer that we've got the history with from past seasons. I'm going to talk for a quick second about what I'm actually putting out there. I've got two different cutty back cameras. This is the Cutty Link camera, and this is a lower price point camera that doesn't have the Cutty Link capability. And I like the cheaper camera for putting over the corn, because when I go in to refresh the corn, I might just as well pull the card. So the Cutty Link doesn't serve a lot of purpose when I'm running over corn all the time. But as I get away from that, as we get closer into the season, and I've already found the bucks that I want to hunt, and I'm not casting that net anymore trying to locate these deer, then it makes a lot of sense to switch over 100% to these Cutty Link cameras, because then I can pull images off scrapes or off trails going through gates or something like that without actually going in there and leaving any scent behind. So as long as I don't have to go in there to freshen the corn like I do during the earlier phases of my patterning, I don't want to go in there at all. So having the Cutty Link system works really well then, because the cameras kick images from one to another, and then they all go back to a home base. So you can pull the SD card out of one camera and get all the images that all the other cameras that are linked in are taking. So that'll work really nice once I get to that phase of my camera scouting. But I thought you'd get a kick out of the various ways or the various applications for the cameras, and then you can save a little bit of money if you're just running, in my case, over the bait. So anyway, that's what I'm putting out there, and time to run down in and set up a couple more cameras. smell, oh boy, really rank. It's got to be right. I smell a dead deer close by. I think I can see the antlers. Can I? No. But it's close. Bummer. So I was coming back here to check a camera and got hit with that smell. So I'm going to figure out where the wind is coming from and track this deer down. But there's a creek right here. I'll bet it's down in this creek. It took a while, but we finally found it. Whew, boy, that smells bad. Wind was swirling, so we thought it was down in that creek, but it's actually right up here above these two food plots. It's a doe. If you look at my blog on the MidwestWhitetail.com website, you'll see where some guys down in North Carolina documented how quickly they decay this time of year. And basically within less than a month, they had a deer that was freshly dead, and all you could see was just a few scattered bones. I mean, it was gone that fast. So this had to have died within just the last probably 4 days or so. So that means that the EHD is not done here, which I was hoping it had already run its course and it was over, but man, that smells bad. I had this camera on bait to start with, and he did show up on here 3 or 4 days ago. So now I'm going to move it so that it's just on that scrape tree, that post that I put in here about 3 weeks or a month ago. And I'm going to point it out into that little food plot so that any deer in the background are going to show up too. So there could be a deer at the scrape, but there might be something behind them that we'll pick up also. So it's going to sit there now for most of the rest of the fall, just monitoring what stops and hits that scrape underneath that branch. I don't want to have any more bait in any of the areas that I'll be hunting, once we get into the season. This is going to be one of the 2 spots that I know of so far where we're likely to find that 8-pointer. That's that bladed 10 right there. So this is further up the valley than we're expected to find him, but it's also 1 a.m. So I'll bet you in those cameras that we put further down the valley, I bet you we'll pick him up more in daylight. But it's good to see that he's still alive, because that was the deer I talked about earlier that we had so much history with, going back to when he was all tore up back in 2017. That's pretty cool. That is not the tube buck. There's the tube buck though, right here. So they're both in there at 1 in the morning. So this is also a really old deer. We actually hunted him a little bit last year. We called him the tube buck. And where this camera is sitting, there's actually a tube that goes across a ditch. And then we go between 2 food plots going over the top of that tube. So the location's called the tube, and we just called this buck the tube buck. So now we're up to 3 mature bucks that we know pretty much where they're at. Tube buck, bladed 10 will be further down the valley, and then that big 8 is a couple ridges to the south. So that's pretty cool. I mean, none of them are giants. We'll keep looking and see if there are any giants, but it's cool that we've got at least some good solid mature bucks to chase. I'm feeling pretty good about at least finding back those 3 that we thought were on this part of the farm. So I'll keep running cameras in a lot of new locations. We're going to find some more bucks. I haven't been at all in that area where I was hunting that big soybean bottom towards the end of late season last year. And I'm sure that we're going to find some shooters over there too. So it's encouraging. At least the EHD hasn't gotten any of the bucks that I knew of that were here, potential shooters. So keep checking back. I usually go 3 days and then I pull. So hopefully on Friday, Thursday or Friday, I can pull cards again and then show you what we found that time around. But this is the most exciting time of the season, I think, for me. I really enjoy finding these deer back, seeing what they look like, and then starting to put the pattern together. So we'll keep bringing them to you, so keep checking back.